Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about 10 misconceptions that I see in interior design, 10 things that people frequently get wrong. Now listen, is this a matter of opinion? No, these are facts. Okay, I don't know if facts matter in 2025 nor not anymore, but they do here on the Nick Lewis channel. Okay, I take a stand. These are things that people get wrong because truth and facts matter, and these are things that people just get incorrect, and that's what we're gonna be talking about. I talk a lot about opinion. I give my opinion a lot on this channel. I've been known to share over the years my thoughts and feelings on things. Do I think rhinestones should be abolished from people's homes? Absolutely. Do I think word signs are stupid? You betcha. Do I think rugs that are too small for a space are an abomination? Of course. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about facts that people get wrong, misconceptions. Let's get going. So I've tried on a lot of different hats in my journey to becoming a YouTuber. It took me almost 2 decades to figure out what it is that I wanted to do with my life. And I feel like I would have got there a lot sooner if I had today's sponsor, which is strawberry.me. So they offer personal coaching with certified professionals who can help you navigate through life transitions, achieve personal goals, and build stronger relationships. I met with my coach and we focused on how I can maintain a better work-life balance as well as stay creative during a rut. Since I work out of my home, I feel like the line between work hours and non-work hours tend to get a little bit blurred. And also with a creative job, sometimes you can feel like you're in a bit of a rut where you sort of lack creativity and you don't really know what you want to work on next. So unlike something like therapy, my coach is much more direct, okay? So asking some very specific questions that focus on my current challenges and creating practical steps I could take to reach a solution. So my coach and I came up with some really small steps that I could do so that I wouldn't feel overwhelmed or procrastinate making these changes. Now I make sure to break up my day a little bit more with walks and sort of tea breaks to boost my creativity and give my mind a rest. I also close the office door when I'm done with work so I'm not tempted to keep checking in or working past my hours, which is so easy to do when you're an entrepreneur. So if you're looking for a career coach, try strawberry.me and with the link that is in my description. So thank you, strawberry.me. Now let's get back to the video. Okay, first misconception that I see all the time is that modern means current. Modern means now, okay? So modern being the same as contemporary, and that is incorrect, okay? I see this all the time. Frequently, like I see realtor videos or homeowners and stuff on social media. People will say, I'm looking for something really modern, and I'm looking for something that just feels really now and feels really current. And that's the issue, is that they're not the same thing. Modern and contemporary are not the same thing. Modern is referring to a period of time, roughly kind of 1920s, 1960s, 70s is really the modern era, right? And there was a lot of influences on that era. There's a lot of technological innovation, right, in that period of time. So we saw new materials being used like lucite and plywood and all sort of manufacturing techniques. We saw the furniture tended to be really sort of simple and it was heavily influenced by like the Bauhaus movement, Scandinavian design, right? That is the modern movement, right? That is the modern period. And we see lots of beautiful, amazing, fantastic designs coming out of that era, and that is a wonderful thing. What people tend to do though is they'll say, I'm really looking for a kitchen that feels modern. And what they mean is they're looking for a kitchen that feels contemporary or something that feels current, right? I'm looking for drawer pulls that are modern. I'm looking for a sofa that feels modern. Now, some modern design is contemporary. So modern is locked into a period of time. Contemporary is always changing. So some modern design is contemporary. We use it a lot in contemporary design, so that makes sense. But to say that something is modern just because it is new or just because it is sort of now or popular at the moment does not make it modern. It makes it contemporary, but contemporary design can be influenced by bohemian design, by postmodernism, which is very popular right now. So, you know, it's not always the same thing. Modern design can be contemporary, but contemporary design does not always mean modern. Otherwise, we would just be perpetually stuck in the 60s, and we're not, okay? We got lots of styles working in here that are really popular of the moment, and contemporary is always evolving. I see this mistake all the time. It drives me nuts, but that's okay. I learned to let it go. I know what you mean when you say modern, so I'm not too mad about it, but just try, like, it's a misconception we need to just take care of. Okay, next on my list is gonna be warm lighting is too dim for the home. I see this a lot. I saw this on TikTok where this person was saying something that I will never do in my home is have all these like warm glowing lights that I see really popular that other like influencers talk about. I'm not saying they saw my videos. Maybe, but it doesn't matter, probably not. I get this, I get where you're going, okay? And that is this idea that a warm light is always gonna be really dim and it's always gonna be sort of creating that sort of subtle glow in your space and whatever. And their point was, darkness, I won't be able to see anything in my home because it's just, give me a bright white garage lighting in my home, I'll turn on the big light and I'll be a happy camper. And that was this person's point. So the problem there is that you confused Kelvin versus lumens. So Kelvin is really referring to what you're talking about, color temperature, okay? So like a 2700 to 3000 is sort of a little bit of that like warm white, right? So it's got a little bit of a golden glow to it, right? When you start getting into the 4000 plus whatever, it's gonna read more white, more like a daylight bulb and less like a sort of warm evening sunset glow. Does that make sense? But that has nothing to do with brightness. Brightness is lumens, which is how much light is emitted from the light bulb or light source, okay? And that can be either or. So it's not necessarily that white light is bright and warm light is dim. That's not the case. You can do that, of course you can. And everything should be on dimmers. That's just my own personal opinion there. I'm just gonna throw that in there. But the two are oftentimes getting confused and people think white is bright and warm is dim, and that's not the case. You can have a warm, bright light. You can have a white light that is also quite dim. It doesn't really matter. The two are not disconnected. So you got two different things that you're confusing there, and I see this misconception all the time. And I had to set the record straight because I love warm lighting, and I also like things on dimmers. And yes, sometimes in the evening, I do like to turn the lights down so that I can't see anything, but I do think that sometimes you can have your warm light and you can also turn it up so you're able to accomplish all the tasks that you need to do in your home. So no one's thinking that you just need to sort of, you know, live like it's candlelight and it's like Downton Abbey and it's like 1915 or something. You don't have to do that. You can turn the lights so that they're really bright and you're able to live in your home while also having beautiful, flattering, gorgeous warm lighting. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be design is always a matter of opinion. Okay, this one isn't a bit of an opinion, a little bit. I'm gonna sneak a little one in there, okay, a little bit. I did a video completely on this topic because it was could one call it a rant? I don't know, maybe you could call it a bit of a rant, but it was a little bit of a rant because this is a frequent comment that I get on my YouTube channel. It's like, blah, 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 design is opinion, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want in the home, like do whatever you want, do whatever you want. And like, of course you can do whatever you want. That's not particularly helpful advice, but I think where I'm at is that I don't think that some of it is opinion. I think some things like these rules are rules and some things are facts. And no, you don't get to have your opinion on whether a giant, massive sofa that you have in your living room, when it's obviously way too big for your space, that you have to like walk on the cushions, that's not good space planning. And that is not a matter of opinion. I mean, it's your opinion if you want to buy the sofa, but you're wrong. It's bad. It's just bad. And sometimes design is bad. And sometimes, you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes there's room for creative flair and sometimes there isn't. And you just need to like stick to the facts, ma'am. Some things are just bad, right? If you hung your TV so far off, like hugging the ceiling so no one can see it, that's just bad, okay? It's bad design. And I'm just gonna call it out. Maybe this is a bit of an opinion, not an opinion, but like, I don't know, that's just me. I think sometimes, you know, there's a lot of room for opinion when it comes to interior design, obviously, but there's also a lot of like rules around like health and safety and things that like, you know, electrical requirements, you don't burn your house down, or things like that that are just facts and you just don't get to like make up your own because you're just like, do whatever you want. And it's like, yeah, okay, until the fire inspector comes. And then where are you at? Where's your design however you want then? Do you know what I mean? So for me, I think the lesson here is, yes, there is tons of room for opinion, but it's not all opinion. Some things just need to be the way they are, and that's it. You don't get to make up your own rules, Sally, okay? No. Okay, next on my list is gonna be LVP, also as known as luxury vinyl plank, will save you in a flood. I know this because do you guys remember back in like 2021 when it looked like I lived in a Holiday Inn? Like, do you know what I mean? Like everybody was called, and by the way, when you're trying to grow an interior design YouTube channel and then you have a flood in your place and you have to move into a basement suite with that ugly, hideous globe lamp, it's not a good situation, okay? People start calling you out and saying like, why should I listen to this guy? Yeah. And I'm like, fair, actually, but I swear I don't live here. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I had a flood. And actually I had two, but that's not really the point. I moved out for one of them and don't worry, they fixed the pipes, it's all good. And I don't live there anymore. Anyway, so I had a flood. And when I did that, I moved into this new little B&B that I had to live in for a while there with the globe thing. And I learned a lot about flooring in that time. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is I was confronted with this myth, which is that luxury vinyl plank will absolutely save you in a flood because it is waterproof. Now, fact, it is waterproof, putting that out there. But a flood oftentimes means that water is gonna get under the luxury vinyl plank. And then if it comes in through your baseboards that are, I can guarantee you, not waterproof, okay? Because like you can honestly, like water is gonna absolutely soak into those things like a sponge. And if it gets into your subfloor, which is not hard to do and not as much water as you think, if water gets under that luxury vinyl plank, you actually have to get the water out. Okay, otherwise it'll mold. So that is an issue. So when that happens, most likely your luxury vinyl plank is coming up. Now, if you have engineered hardwood or you have laminate or something or whatever, it's possible, not likely, but there's a faint hope that they can actually like dry through the wood and actually be able to dry the subfloor a little bit. It's a hope and a prayer, okay? But at this point, honestly, you're like praying to the gods that they're like suck some of that water out there so you can actually not have to move into that Airbnb. But it's probably not gonna happen for you. I'm just gonna tell you, it didn't happen for me, so it's probably not gonna happen for you. But if it did, then great, you're saved. Luxury vinyl plank you're not getting water sucked out of there, okay? It's not gonna happen. So that LVP is coming up. It's not gonna save you. Everyone's like, if I had a flood, if only you had LVP. No. That's not probably gonna happen. If you have a flood, I'm not talking a glass of water falling on your floor, which honestly engineered hardwood is gonna be fine then too. But if water gets under the subfloor, that LVP is coming up. And if you glued it down, you're moving out. You're in that Airbnb with me. Sorry. If you didn't glue it down and it's floating, it's possible you could take the LVP up, dry everything, and then put the LVP back down. I'm not sure if they'll necessarily recommend that, but it is waterproof. So there is that. Yes, it prevents a spill and a flood and whatever in like really like small amounts. But if we're talking a flood, it's not gonna save you. Sorry. Okay, next on my list is gonna be minimalism equals an empty space. I see this all the time where people talk about minimalism, and I think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of minimalism. I call it like extreme minimalism when you see these like art gallery spaces that are completely woefully impractical and no one actually lives in these places, okay? No one lives here. I'm just gonna tell you right now, no one lives here, no one does this. If they are, they're like a weirdo and they should be shunned from society the way that, you know, we do all sorts of other people, we should do with all sorts of other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't belong in polite society, these weirdos, because they're probably a psychopath and it's probably their killing room, let's be real. Like, so some of these spaces are not real. The all white space with a tiny little piece of wood in the corner and a piece of plywood for a coffee table and they're like, yeah, here's my home. It's like a slightly chic, like dude room from like a single guy. It's like not that much better than like Joey and Chandler's room in my opinion. Like it looks kind of, like I get that it looks okay in magazines or whatever maybe, but like it's not real. But minimalism, as a design philosophy, if you will, just means curating your space. It's really just about being really thoughtful about what you put into your home. Thinking, does this provide value? Does this provide utility for me? Does this make sense for my home? Is this something that I'm going to use? And depending on who you talk to, some minimalists will absolutely tell you, including me, I'm not consider myself a minimalist by the way, but some minimalists, I would say, will say, beauty, I enjoy looking at it, right, are good reasons for something to be in your home. So this idea that it's like, I could never be a minimalist because I wouldn't, yeah, no kidding. No one is expecting you to live in that, off that plywood. We talked about this. It's an American Psycho situation, okay? So that's probably not you, hopefully. And so like, that's them. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people that are just very conscious of what they put into their home. They wanna say, everything that I put in, I wanna really think through to make sure that I want it to be there so it has utility and it has impact on my life. They're trying to avoid clutter. They're trying to avoid too much stuff that isn't serving them anymore. And that is what minimalism really is in sort of as a principle. I feel like it gets misconstrued in the design world as just like these empty art gallery spaces. And honestly, the insane asylum look just is a very small subset of minimalism. Most of it is just people that are just curating their spaces and trying to be just really thoughtful and mindful of what goes into their home. Okay, next up on my list is just gonna be there are too many white paint options. It's hard to say this is like a complete misconception because arguably there's the right amount or maybe there is maybe a few too many white paint options. I get it. I also could have just said like a lot of people just say like white paint is white paint. And it isn't, okay? It's not. It's not white paint is white paint. And I get it. It's because it's overwhelming when you stare at the wall of white paints and you're just like, what? Why do they need so many? Why do they need, you know, smoker's teeth and eggshell? And like, why do they need all these stupid colors? Like, why don't we, you know, we don't need all that many. And the thing is I'm not saying we need that many, but we need more than you think. And because white paint isn't just like take a piece of paper and shove it onto a wall and call it white paint. And the reason I want you to think of that is just because picture the entire color wheel. Picture like a bucket of pure white, like white, okay? White as white can be, okay? And now you've got that, and now you're gonna add a little bit of pigment. And if we take the color wheel and you add like a few drops of red, a little bit of blue, or whatever, that is going to create undertones in the paint that is going to matter when you put it onto the wall. And if you actually start to break out all the different colors that are there on the color wheel and all the different combinations of different little bits of all the different colors you can put in that little bit, it'll still look white, like white, but it won't look pure white, because you're adding all sorts of different tints and different undertones. That is what an undertone is. That's all an undertone really is what are those different tones that are being layered underneath that white paint to create something different. And it does look different. And I have a whole video on how to choose a white paint that's about 7,000 years old, so feel free to check it out on the channel. But basically, it's just about matching the undertones for what the rest of what you're doing in the rest of the space. That's really what this is all about. And so when people just go, I think they're overwhelmed and they just go like, white paint is white paint. It's because they don't want to take the time to learn that actually it's necessary why there's this many white paints. Maybe that's a bridge too far, the word necessary, but like there's a reason why there's this many. And it's because there are so many different colors on the color wheel and all sorts of different combinations all put into that bucket of white paint to create something uniquely different every time. That is why there are so many white paints. I never really understood it years and years and years ago either, but now I get it. Now I'm like, we need more white paints. Like we don't have enough. We don't have enough. Like think of all the different ways that we can create white. There's no end to this. And so I stand by it. We have just the right amount of white paints. Maybe, just my opinion, not enough. Okay, next on my list is going to be natural materials are too expensive. This is frequently something that comes up on the channel because people talk about, I love natural materials, big fan. So, and sometimes people say, understandably, like, does your budget match if you love natural materials? Because they are very expensive. And I think people look to it and go, I can't afford it. I can't afford too many natural materials in my home because natural materials are just always going to be way more expensive than synthetic ones. And to that I say, there are more natural materials out there than you realize. And yes, there are some really expensive natural materials that you can use. Like you can get semi-precious stone countertops that are going for like, I don't even know, like this hundreds of dollars a square foot. Do you know what I mean? Like absolutely. I think I saw one the other day that was like a slab of semi-precious and I think it was something like $500 a square foot or something, some insane number, and you had to buy a slab of it. So it was like, yeah, that's gonna cost you, right? Like, and that is a natural stone. Yeah, for sure. Of course, natural stone, marble, right? These things are really expensive. But there's a lot of materials actually out there that are not as expensive as you might think. Things like seagrass and jute and wicker and rattan and cotton and linen and bamboo. And there's lots of materials out there that are natural materials that you can get into your home that are a lot more affordable than you realize. If you love an organic modern or you love natural materials and you're like, how do I incorporate more? Maybe not the whole place being, you know, natural materials. Of course, you're probably gonna have some things in there that are not natural and that's totally fine. But you're probably thinking like, how do I incorporate some of this stuff in, but it's too expensive? It's just about finding the ones that are gonna be a little bit cheaper. Yes, when you look at it, you're like, I can't afford walnut and walnut cabinetry all over my home with brand new Viola countertops. Fine. That's fine, I get it. Onyx is expensive, you know, these things are expensive. I understand that, right? Getting all these really, really expensive marbles and stones and stuff is pricey. But there's so many natural materials that are out there that are gonna be a more accessible price point, more affordable for you, and you can absolutely fill your home with these things and it's gonna be super gorgeous and it's gonna provide a lot more life and that feeling of nature brought into the home in really unique and beautiful ways. Plus you can add plants and there's lots of different ways that you can do this without necessarily breaking the bank. Next on my list, and this one is related, is going to be design is only for the wealthy. And I fundamentally disagree with this. Now, I will say that sometimes I see criticism about me, which is totally fair. I'm not above criticism. Go ahead. I searched my name on Reddit once, you guys. That was a whole thing. Actually, the people on Reddit are pretty kind to me. Actually, they were not bad. Some people really liked me over on the Reddit. Some people were, it's funny. It's like, you know what it's like searching your own name on Reddit when you're me? It's like walking into a party and like you knock on the door about to come and you're like about to walk in and there's a party behind the door and then like a bunch of people and you can like hear them talking about you and you're like, I feel like I shouldn't be in on this conversation. So you like back out silently. That's what it's like, me going on social media and Googling myself or anyway. But one criticism that I see is that I talk about design as if like it's only for the wealthy. Like I use examples of like stuff that's inexpensive and cheap and then say, see, look how ugly this is. And look at this beautiful, gorgeous piece that's from AD magazine and look how beautiful. And I'm like, fair. That's fair criticism of me, to be honest. That is 100% fair, which is why I want to address it here. There's absolutely ways that you can design your space so that it is beautiful and wonderful, but still using affordable materials that are accessible to most people, right? Now, buying anything is of course going to cost you money. So if your budget is zero, that's a whole other thing. Although there is a lot of ways like shopping your own home, moving things around your space, like whatever, secondhand, free section of Facebook Marketplace. Like there's lots of ways, or DIYing, like that you can still have beautiful, great design in your space without necessarily needing to spend anything. But I do think having some budget can help, obviously. And even then, there is thrifted stuff, right? There is DIY DIY, there is, again, those material choices that you could be making where, so you might not be able to afford some beautiful like hand knotted 100% wool rug, but you might be able to afford, you know, something that's in like a jute material or something, which is going to be much more affordable. And you can actually buy that stuff at IKEA and whatever. Lots of different ways I think that you can access design without necessarily spending a lot of money. And also remember, design is not just about going out and choosing new fancy cute little decor pieces to bring into your home. It can just be about, just overall, it's just about making a space feel more beautiful and feel more functional for human beings to navigate so that you can improve your well-being. Really, like that's what this is about, right? So if your proper space planning isn't done, like if you've put your love seat in one, smushed into one corner of your living room and a sofa in the other and then a coffee table over here, and it's not functional and no one's able to talk to each other and no one has a place to put their Diet Coke, that's an example of poor design. But if you just take the same stuff and just re-engineer and reorganize everything with proper space planning, you can create a beautiful, wonderful, more functional space that didn't cost you anything. So good design doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. It is absolutely not for the wealthy. And there are great resources out there here in 2025, like dare I say, this YouTube channel that can help you be able to actually have a beautiful, wonderful space, no matter what your budget is. Okay, so next on my list is gonna be interior designers will only help you decorate. I see this one a lot, and it's, I think, just a fundamental misunderstanding of what interior designers do. Now, full disclosure, I'm not an interior designer, okay? I see people that ask me, they're like, hey, Nick, I would love to be your client. Can I hire you? And to that I say, I am flattered, but no. Because you guys are like probably a lot of work. Like if you guys paid me, that would be like a lot of expectation and a lot of work on my part. I would much rather sit here in my living room and just like talk like crap about stuff from HomeSense, because that is way easier and a lighter lift for me to do. So thank you, flattered, but I'm gonna stick to this. But interior designers, the real workhorses, the people that actually like do real stuff, they do so much more than decorate. And oftentimes, like people don't even realize, but I know interior designers that are just like, I don't even want to touch furniture. Like I would rather you just buy your own furniture. I don't even want, or buy it yourself. I can maybe advise you, but like I'm not here to sit there and like go through the process of like ordering from this place and managing the whole order and making sure it's delivered on the right day. Like a lot of designers just don't want to touch it. Because I think what people don't realize is that choosing finishes, which is what I talk about a lot on this channel, is a small part of what designers do. It's a big part of what designers do, but a lot of what they do is like, obviously like sales, like out there hustling, getting new clients and things. But then a lot of it is like project management. It's a lot of space planning. It's a lot of working in CAD and working in SketchUp and all sorts of things that I don't talk about because they're just not super fun for YouTube, but they love it and they're good at it, right? And that's taking spaces and reorganizing the rejigging the space plan, and they're taking down walls and they're putting up cabinetry and they're making sure that everything's down to the centimeter or the inch, depending on what country you live in. They're making sure they got proper clearances to make sure that, you know, everything is done to code, right? They're taking it down to the city hall and they're advocating for your case because the city's probably gonna stand in your way and be like, nah, we don't want this, we don't want this. And you're gonna, you know, they're doing all that work. They're doing all that work. And they're not just sitting here helping you decorate. Now, oftentimes I see people go like, interior designers are not interior decorators, and that is true. But sometimes I feel like there's a bit of an arrogance around like interior designers being like, we're better than decorators, and that is not true. I think interior decorators is just a whole different job. It's like saying like a doctor could kind of probably do what a nurse does, maybe, but a doctor doesn't do what a nurse does, and a nurse doesn't do what a doctor does. They're just different things. A decorator and an interior designer, they're just different kind of jobs. Interior design can involve decorating, right? They might choose things for you depending on your designer, depending on the scope of the project, but it's not necessarily like their whole thing. And I think some people, and maybe I'm a part of that because I use the word interior design, because if I don't say interior design, you guys don't click. So if I called it something different, people wouldn't watch my videos. So yes, sometimes I think interior design does involve a lot of decorating, and that tends to be what I talk about on my channel, and it tends to get the most kind of airtime on social media and traditional media, but that's only because it's like the fun stuff. Never forget that designers do a whole lot of work that is not just choosing different finishes, because that's the fun stuff, but it's not all they do. And so don't just think that interior designers just decorate. They do a lot more than that too. Okay, and then last on my list, which is maybe like a little bit of opinion, but like we're just gonna throw it out there, and it's on this in the spirit of what I was just talking about with interior designers, and that is all interior designers have stunning homes. I see this misconception a lot, and I don't wanna be like catty because you know that's just not in my nature, but I will say that all interior designers most interior designers that are good, they should pay attention to that stuff we were just talking about. Good space planning, the rules of interior design, if you will, the facts like we talked about, right? Like heights of certain things and clearance issues of certain things and proper space planning of certain things and making sure that the measurements are done properly and health and safety and all that stuff. They should be really good at that. They should know code for your local city and they should know all that stuff. From there, when we're starting to talk about finishes and we're starting to talk about style, I would not personally say that every interior designer has a stunning home, because interior designers have unique taste and they have their own taste. And sometimes they have like their own brand that they're working with. They have their own sort of kind of point of view, if you will, and you hire them because you want that point of view. They might have a specific style that they really enjoy, that they're known for, and people hire them because they want that style. And that style may or may not be your taste. This is where, and this kind of want to leave it on this note, which is like, that is a matter of taste. It might just be something that you might not enjoy. And there are lots of interior designers that I know, maybe not personally, but I definitely know through social media, and I'm like, it's a no for me. And that's okay. I'm not allowed, I don't have to like everything that everybody does. Lord knows I do not. And you don't have to agree with every opinion that I have here on this channel. I know you don't. So, you know, you don't have to necessarily love everything that an interior designer churns out. On the flip side, there's people that are not interior designers, absolutely are not decorators, don't do this at all, but I think their spaces are stunning and they're beautiful and they're curated, they're cool, and I just love them. They're so like, their own personal style is so unique and really neat. And I love that. And they're not interior designers. Like, so don't assume that every interior design home is stunning. It's a matter of taste. It's a matter of kind of their own brand, their own personal style, and it might not be your taste, and that is okay. And the other thing is, it's kind of like the mechanic that has the bad car, like the car that doesn't work, you know what I mean? When you're spending all your time working on other people's beautiful spaces, I think sometimes there's designers that are just like, I don't care. Like, I kind of love the idea of designers working on stunning, like, don't you think like if Kelly Wearstler designs these gorgeous spaces and then she goes home and she's just got like a crappy old recliner in front of a tube television, like, I love that idea. Because it's just like, I spend all my time making beautiful spaces. I don't have the patience or the time to like sit here and curate and make my space all stunning. I'm just gonna sit here and sit in my crappy recliner. I love that for her. So it really just depends in the end. It depends on the designer. It depends on who they are, their own style, and their own willingness and their own desire to actually care about their own personal space. At the end of the day, it's a job for them too. And just like everything else, they might not want to spend all their time. You know, you'd be surprised how many interior designers probably don't want to go to Crate and Barrel on a Saturday. It's probably the last thing they want to do after they've just been sitting here staring at fabric samples all week. Do you know what I mean? And I get that. Okay, that's it for me today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna leave here to that rant I mentioned earlier. You know that opinion that people sometimes throw out there, which is decorate however you want? I did a rant on it. So feel free to check it out, and I will see you all in that video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.